and welcome into Getting Help from Uncle Sam. And I just thank you for being here. Thank you for the way you look at things. We have got our police chief, Jim Grayboys, here, and I am so solidly behind you. You have been a pleasure. And I have to say that you don't just talk it, you walk it. And that is what matters, I think, to everybody who's watching this show, because it's easy to talk. And I would like to make one other statement. You know, I thought about it before we started, and I thought, you know, most of us have worked all of our lives, but I've never had a job where I put my life on the line. The military does that, and actually the police do that. And we all owe you a big thank you. We owe much more than blame everything that's wrong. Folks, everybody does it. But you know what? To make everything better, we are going to have to all come together, work together, forget the blame, and let's make things good for every single person. And we can do it. We can do it. You're on the road to doing that, and I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
If you could change a top 3 things, let's say, if I could have this, or if I could have this to work with, or if I could tell people, if you want to do this to help me, what would one of them be?
Top 3 things. Well, I'll give you one thing that I've been very passionate about, even though I know it might not be popular. When the concealed carry restrictions were taken away, that harmed law enforcement across the state. And I'm not going to withdraw from that statement. I remember being very much against that when I started hearing it go into effect. And the reason I was so much against it was because what that meant now was that anytime we found somebody who was trying to conceal, let's say, their identity and a weapon at the same time, well, suddenly that's not necessarily illegal. But it used to be. Now, Alabama, prior to that restriction being lifted, Alabama was always an open carry state. I never had problems with that because, you know, I believe in the Second Amendment. I myself have my own firearms that I also own.
Right, so do I.
And there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing about it is when you have a restriction on concealed carry, and it was very specific where you had to have a license from the local sheriff. Well, when you had that in effect, what that meant was that anytime you found somebody trying to hide a weapon, right, and like trying to, you know, hide it in their car or something like that, it meant that they were probably up to no good, but you had grounds to take the weapon and arrest the individual. When you were actually dealing with somebody who had a weapon in the car, but they were a law-abiding citizen, you didn't take their weapon. You just found out what was going on and you sent them on their way. The only people who really benefited from that lifting was the criminals, because now a criminal basically could be concealing a weapon, and let's say that criminal, even though they might, let's say, not have a solid record yet, right?
Okay.
Let's say they don't have a criminal record, but they're going out to commit a crime. Well, up to the point that they get to wherever they're going, they're not doing anything illegal by hiding that weapon and hiding their identity at the same time. And the thing about it is that really, I have found to be a very irritating situation, because usually if somebody's riding slowly through a neighborhood with a weapon stuffed under their car seat, or they're walking through a neighborhood at 3 in the morning and they're carrying an AR rifle, well, most people, if they see that, they're going to be really alarmed. And the thing about it is now, because of those requirements being lifted, well, they're not breaking the law. So that is something that really has bothered me. So if I could have anything, I would have those concealed carry restrictions back on the books. I would love to see that.
All right.
Because that policy has affected things in a lot of ways, and it bothers me. In fact, one thing you can see is a direct correlation between how things spiked and that law, and the things being, you know, basically when the restrictions got rescinded, things started really spiking in a serious way. Now, I'm very pleased that we have been bringing numbers down. And we've been doing it through arresting the right people and working, you know, really hard. But I've got to say, our job, you know, while we have the best officers, our job is very much affected by the legislation that gets passed. And so one of the things that I would say is that if I could have anything, I would have those restrictions back.
Okay.
Where basically people had to get they had to get a a license from their local sheriff, and they had to be, you know, have the clean record, and they have to carry that license with them when they carry a weapon concealed. I would love to see that come back. Now, on another note, though, too, about something I would like to see.
Okay.
Okay. One thing, and in fact, actually, I'll do a shout out to Sheriff Cunningham because
Amen.
I've been
Amen.
talking.
We love
I've
Derek.
been talking with him very extensively, and one thing I'd like to see is I would really like to see the laws related to how bail bonding is done be changed. And what I mean by that is it shouldn't be treated like where you can do a payment plan or where it's very easy to bond out, because what we have going on right now, and we've been seeing this unfortunately, is that we will arrest somebody for a violent crime and then we find out that they are actually out on bond for another violent crime.
Right.
And that hurts the community. And
Amen.
so, you know, one of the things about it is that, you know, legislation could probably change that. At the same time, when there's discretion, some discretion has to be looked at. And what I mean by that is, if I'm arresting somebody for a violent crime, you know, some violent crimes, this is why you passed the Anita's law, some violent crimes really should not get bond.
Right.
But the thing about it is that I would love to see it to where across the board people are going, hey, this person was arrested for a violent crime and they're not getting bond. Because unfortunately we've seen too many people who have committed violent crimes who are out on bond for other violent crimes. And I think if that was no longer possible, we would see another huge drop in crime and crime numbers in the city.
Thank you for being with us, and we are going to have Chief Grayboys back because this is an issue that pertains to all of us. So stay tuned, and thank you for being with us for this segment.